want to keep you in the app. They want to increase engagement, increase views, increase comments, keep you looking down in that app.
And made to feel horrible and shamed, this little girl who's 13 years old, because of an algorithm.
And they have their own studies that this is bad stuff.
As a young girl, to have that fed to you all the time against your will.
So that's telling you that there is an algorithm, it's listening, and it's targeting us, right?
And they knew, or should have known, that serving stress-inducing, anxiety-inducing content to little developing kids could lead to suicidal thoughts.
And I think that's the really hard part for all of us to swallow, is they knew it was harmful, they knew it was harmful to children, and they still continue to do it.
Thanks for watching the Carolina Justice Report. I'm Rainey Romero with the Lovely Law Firm. Today we're talking about the emerging litigation with social media addiction that involves children and adolescents. Welcome back, and thanks for watching this one. I'm here with attorneys Amy Lawrence, Sarah Ossett, and Justin Lovely. Thanks for joining today.
Yeah.
So,
Hey.
I feel like this is...
Hey.
How you doing?
Yo.
So I feel like this has been a subject between parents and leaders and teachers for a long time, but now there's actual kind of litigation with social media addiction, and especially affecting the younger generation. So I guess first let's dive into what exactly is being alleged here.
Yeah, so there was a whistleblower that came out a few years ago against Facebook, now called Meta, right, as everybody knows, because they had to rebrand because the stock price took a dive. That basically says, hey, these are the algorithms that is pushing all the negative content to not just kids, everybody, right? Because what they want to do, they want to keep you in the app, they want to increase engagement, increase views, increase comments, keep you looking down in that app so they can sell advertising to you, right? And so one of the ways that they do this to you is if you start going down a negative path, they keep giving you more negative, controversial content, right? So for the average person, for like an adult who has a fully developed brain, no problem. It's still not good for you, right? And everybody knows if you spend any time in any of these apps, it's not just Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, all of them. You can go down some rabbit holes and you can get depressed, or you start feeling bad, or you start feeling good, depending on what kind of content. If you're doing motivational content.
Sure.
But as this comes out through this whistleblower, right? We learned that they had studies that adolescents who are maybe looking up something bad or get served some negative content, that they comment on or they click on it, they start getting served up more and more and more. And when adolescents, kids, teens, their brain's still developing, right? They're subjected to this, and they're staying on this app 4 or 5 hours a day. That's a problem, right? And so it can lead to depression, can lead to anxiety, can lead to increased stress,
Suicide.
In the worst case, suicide thoughts.
Eating disorders,
bulimia, anorexia. And then in the worst cases, suicide itself. And so, of course, now the litigation has been commenced to try to put a stop to this, okay? Try to hold these companies, these social media companies accountable. And that's where we're at. That's what we're going to talk about today.
So are we talking about just the ads that are being fed, or are we talking about everything about it?
I think what we learned from that whistleblower, it was a woman, and she talked about, so here's a great example of what was going on. So a 13-year-old girl, she is scrolling through Instagram, and Instagram and Facebook are all owned by Meta, Zuckerberg, whatever. And what we learned is let's say she sees an influencer and they're talking about eating disorders. And what we learned is that she watched it twice, right? So then all of a sudden we had this algorithm inundated this 13-year-old girl with, anorexia tips. Girls giving these, right?
Right.
Or
Diet
telling you
pills or
diet
flat tummy
pills
teas and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The ads start popping up when you watch those videos.
So you've got the ads, but you also have all these other that run in that have those same words, keywords and things like that. And so then you've got a kid who's, anorexic and bulimic, and they learn how to do it and made to feel horrible and shamed, this little girl who's 13 years old, because of an algorithm. And the thing is like, we can understand that if we go and seek out these things, that we have to take personal responsibility for it. But that's not what happened here, right? So what happened is the company recognized this thing and then directly marketed to this 13, 14-year-old little girl, and the ramifications for her health and safety. And that you can't do.
Yeah.
The algorithm specifically dialed in to serve that content, and then to chase you and follow up with you. So even if you start looking at something else, they've tracked everything, and they know, hey, you stayed on the app for 3 hours when we showed you stress and anxiety and diet pill content, right?
Yeah.
So you might be looking up sports and checking a football game score, right? Not even doing that. And then they start luring you back in.
And because you've got multiple platforms owned by the same company, it's tracking you on multiple platforms.
Yeah, cross-track.
So I'm on Instagram and I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go look at Facebook. It's doing the same thing. It's tracking you to that other app, and it's throwing those cookies and following you with all that the same shit, because that's what it is. That's harmful. Onto the other thing.
Was this litigation towards one social media site, or is it kind of like all social media?
Yeah, it's going to pop up against every single one.
Everywhere.
So Facebook and Meta have already agreed to start litigating it, and they haven't taken responsibility, but they're not fighting it as hard as like TikTok and Snapchat. Those companies, it's still early, and they're trying to fight different jurisdictional tactics that are going on right now. But I feel it's going to be all of them eventually, with Meta being the number one culprit.
Right. Well, what does this fight look like? I mean, what are attorneys trying to prove, and then what is going to be kind of the defense of the social media?
Well, it's just like that the algorithm was made and tailored to do just what Amy just said, just what I just said. Keep you on there so we can serve you ads, and we want time. We want you spending your time online just stuck chasing content, so we can serve you more and more and more ads, and I can sell advertising and make money off of you.
Right.
That's what the problem is. But then the problem comes, kids and adolescents, they need to be segmented out of that, because their brains are still developing, and they knew, or should have known, that serving stress-inducing, anxiety-inducing content to little developing kids could lead to suicidal thoughts, suicide.
Well, we know
eating
from
disorders.
the whistleblower and their own internal studies, they did know.
Yeah.
Right? They did know.
And so to prove it, I think would be they've got to turn over all their algorithm information, and they've also got to turn over, whoever the plaintiff is, the algorithm's target. They could pull all that information. They've got that data stored on all of us. So they'll just take 13-year-old girl's phone and pull everything they ever targeted at her.
So is the goal to stop the algorithms, or is the goal to kind of modify it for younger people and modify it if it's a negative thing?
Modify it.
Modify it?
For children.
I just think stop
It
targeting
should stop.
children.
Yeah,
I
you
think
should
they
not
should
serve ads to kids at all. Right?
Children and adult. Right, absolutely. To minimize, right?
I think that's I don't think they'll ever stop.
They're all looking
serving
at like
children.
how to be a better soccer player. Okay, show them how to be a better soccer player, but don't target them with all this other stuff.
Right.
I mean, a great example of this is, so we were discussing this. We had lunch in our conference room, and we're wolfing down and we're talking, and our phones are laying there, right? And we're having a discussion about this, and Sarah's like, tummy tea? You said tummy tea.
Flat tummy tea and that whatever that diet pill.
Some kind of diet pill that the Kardashians are taking. That's like a diabetes medicine.
Yeah.
Okay. I run home. I've got like 10 minutes to myself. I'm like gonna watch some funny TikToks and like decompress before we come here. And
There it is.
everything was about the tummy tea, some colon cleanse things, that diabetes medicine for weight loss. And I mean, that's exactly all we saw. You know what I mean? So that's telling you that there is an algorithm, it's listening, and it's targeting us, right? It's working.
Yeah.
It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and we don't want it to do that anymore because it's being harmful to children.
And so this litigation is specifically for kids, right? Or is it for anyone?
Yeah, so we're looking at you could be up to 26 years old would be a case we would take, that we could prove that you were in the app 3 to 4 hours constantly, because we're gonna have to prove that you were in there, not just you can't say, hey, I looked at one ad for 10 minutes and then then you got depressed. I mean, that's not going to be a viable case. But we're looking and investigating cases where they're up to 26 years old, they've been exposed to this for a long period of time, and then any kind of like behavioral issue, that's a case we would investigate.
Well, and just to play devil's advocate here, just to kind of see what people may question is if you do have somebody who's kind of on the older spectrum of that, like 18, 19, 20, 21, you know, I guess the argument could be, well, like, nobody's making you watch these things. You can get off any time. What's kind of the thought process behind that?
Well, we're pretty confident that through this litigation, lawyers are going to find through depositions, and
couldn't put it down.
when we get all that data back, they're storing data on everything that you do in the
Gotcha.
platform. They're tracking you when you're not even in the platform. You don't even realize this, but when you agree to terms and conditions, they're following you on
Like them
everything else
listening
you
to our
do.
conversation today. I wasn't on the app when I was any apps. My phone was just laying on the as I'm wolfing down lunch.
And you should not do that for children, right?
Right.
And now I agree with you. Maybe parents should take some responsibility and not let their kids have cell phones and be on social media. You know, then that's probably that's another discussion. But we know that they knew that they were serving it to adolescents, and they knew that.
And they knew it was an adolescent.
Absolutely. They know they're an adolescent, and they know that they're putting them down these rabbit holes, right? And they have their own studies that this is bad stuff, you know.
Scary.
They have, not only they have studies, but they have these like big meetings where people within the company are fighting back. Like, we know that this is harmful to children. Why are we doing this?
Wow.
And that's what that whistleblower talks about. Like, it was great contention because it made money, right? That goes back to profit over people, right? Profit over children. And I think that's the really hard part for all of us to swallow is they knew it was harmful. They knew it was harmful to children, and they still continue to do it.
Yeah. Well, and we talk about all the serious
It's very
cases
intentional,
between bullying among social media anyway, just person to person, especially with kids, you know. They have all this, you know, people committing suicide from the bullying on social media. But it's kind of an interesting twist because it's almost like being bullied by social media itself for children with this, which is kind of crazy.
So that is, yes, light bulb, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's just bad stuff all around. It's not good.
Yeah.
So we recommend if you see anything with a child at home, declining grades, you know, they're not sleeping through the night, right? They're being socially awkward,
Depression.
Depression symptoms,
anxiety,
yeah.
anything out of the ordinary. You know, watch them, check on their their time on their apps and everything, and get them off those apps.
Because you can look now at your Explore page, right? So even if you click away from that stuff, you go to your Explore page, it's going to show up. So if you have a kid, you can just go hop on their Explore page. You can literally figure out everything Facebook thinks they're interested in.
I'm going to sound stupid. What is the Explore page?
It's on your Instagram. If you just go, I don't even know what the
Search.
symbol is.
Right here.
It's if you just go to search, it has all those videos there. Those
Okay,
are all
okay,
targeted
okay.
specifically to you. I know that mine's mostly cat videos.
Yeah.
You know?
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, my brother's is like gym videos and
Yeah.
fishing videos. And so they're all targeted to you and what you're looking at and what you're interested in. And so you can really find out what that algorithm is for your kid
Yeah.
if you just hop on there.
And this is the thing, as a mom and parents, like, we understand that this is a really hard stuff to deal with, right? And what I mean hard stuff is like, where's the line that, like, how old do they need to be before we allow them to have this stuff? And like, this is really hard stuff. And Justin and I have decided, like, our kids will not have a phone until 8th grade, and they will not have social media until they have a part-time job, right? They're not allowed to have social media until they have a part-time job, because if they are responsible enough to go to work and to work a job and put in hours and get a paycheck, then we will look at them being responsible enough to have social media. And we've talked about it with our kids, and it kind of scares them. Social media scares them, and they're, you know, going to be 10 and our 12-year-old's 12. He's in 6th grade. And he's like, Mom, it just complicates everything. I go, it does. He's very wise. I said, it does complicate everything. You know, you have your whole life to have to worry about all this stuff. And you shouldn't have to do that when you're 6 years old. I mean, we have issues. Like, there was a kid in a local middle school that was putting up this Instagram page of little girls who've been sexually assaulted. That's insanity. Like, this, I mean, these are hard questions for parents. And I just highly recommend you put it off as long as you possibly can.
Yeah. There has to be a level of maturity when you're dealing with social media. For
Yeah,
sure.
and the longer you hold off, the longer their little brains have to develop, and their sense of self is like more established, and their worthiness and self-esteem is less shakeable the older they get, and more distance they have away from that stuff.
Well, I know we were all talking before we were rolling about when we remember Facebook kind of starting up. And, you know, it used to just be for like universities and colleges. And I kind of feel like it should have stayed that way, like for adults, you know.
yeah.
And I don't know when it expanded to kind of whoever and anybody, but It seemed a whole lot less
I was
complicated
like,
back then.
Yeah, I remember I was at East Carolina University. It was like 2001 because it was right before I graduated. And it was when you had to type in thefacebook.com, www.thefacebook.com. And there was only like 20 some schools on there at that time.
Yeah.
Because at first it was just Harvard and Stanford, like Ivy League schools, and they started adding in other schools, and then it became all universities. You had to have an EDU.
Right.
Email to even get started. So like, I think that's why we don't see a lot of adults that have this issue, because their brains have been developed by the time, you know, social media came around. I was 21 years old, you know what I mean? And they had a sense of self and worthiness and all those things. So it's a lot harder to shake when you have that.
You know, digital everything has got to be policed in general, because I know even when I was younger and computers had just gotten into schools and stuff, I mean, it was all about the chat rooms then, and you'd have inappropriate sexual ads that would pop up, you know, and so
AOL
it's
chat
like,
rooms. I remember 1995, the dial up, and like the coolest thing ever would be get to a chat room and you'd be like, holy smokes, those are words I don't even know, and I'm pretty sure my mom and dad do not want me to know them. No, absolutely.
So it's just kind of like, I feel like this is the new form just because it's the new technology, it's the new age, but it's scary.
We just gotta demand better for our kids, for ourselves. And hold
them like a
companies
hawk.
accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do all the privacy settings, you know.
And we have apps,
diligent.
like our kids have little mini iPads for when we go on trips and stuff. We have apps on those that everything that they text, if it has like keywords or anything, that I have to approve anything that goes on there, and they know it. I'm a psycho mom. I am.
You're watching them harder than Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is saying something.
Well, Sarah, you are the youngest one in this discussion.
Yeah.
Do you have, you know, when did you kind of start social media, and did it have any kind of, I guess through your experience, have you ever experienced any kind of, aside from ads, like people, you know, affected by social media, or like bullying, or you have any experiences where it's affected you?
Yeah. Well, do I? When I was in like middle school, high school, I guess it was MySpace was the big thing.
Right,
And then
yep.
they started letting people on Facebook who weren't in college. And so I think it was like in high school when everybody sort of migrated over to Facebook. And back then I could see, I always said, you know, especially working this job and hearing about bullying, when I was younger and bullying was happening, you know, you dealt with people at school, but you had to go home and kind of like turn
Right.
it off. Like you
Exactly.
weren't bullied in that space. Like you weren't in your bed being bullied. And then when Facebook came out, you know, you could contact people and target people, and there was cliques online, you know, so you could just be like hanging out in your room and you're still dealing with the stuff. I mean, I had a Facebook page made about me, which I won't go into.
Really?
Yeah.
Sarah?
It's okay. I won in the end.
That's
but we're all
crazy.
good.
That's crazy.
that's
I
though.
sad.
didn't make a
that's
Facebook
what-
page, but that was just us targeting each other. That was just
Yeah.
like normal school kids. That was going to
Wow.
go on at school regardless, but then it was just like, well, let's just take it to 24/7 during the weekend kind of thing.
Did that affect you in the moment?
Oh yeah, I mean, we were involved in drama literally 24/7 in high school. 24/7. There was never an off moment because we could be on our way to a basketball game like fighting with a girl in class.
Crazy.
So I think, and then that changed now. It's not so much people with each other. And I think maturity for me is like people who I don't like, or, you know, we used to all be friends with each other just to like mess with each other. Now, like in my adult age, I'm like, I don't even need to see any of this stuff I don't like. You know, I'm like, I've deleted
Yeah.
everyone who doesn't post anything but like cat videos and,
Yeah.
and legal stuff, and all my friends, just to like, for my mental health, to keep
Yes.
it clean. But now it's not just person to person. It's sort of like you're being, like you said, Facebook is throwing all this stuff at you too. Like you're sort of like having to fight those things. And
Yes.
like, you know, I can imagine being a teenage girl going through all the things we go through with like body image and other girls at school and things like that. And on top of that, having to see like Kardashian, like fake body,
Yeah.
24/7. Like that's just going to be, it is, I think, really hard for
It is true.
young
'Cause, yeah.
girls. And I'm not a mom, but I can't imagine
you
sort
can't
of being a
police it.
mom to a young girl.
Well,
Yeah.
if that's like the goal, right? Then nothing, I mean, and it takes millions of dollars and a lot of doctors and really creative makeup artists who are very expensive and hair people and fake, you know, if that's like the goal, then you're never going to reach it.
Right.
You're never going to reach
It's just like
it.
a
not
work sense
realistic.
of reality.
Yeah.
You know, you already put so much pressure on yourself. I mean, as a young girl to have that fed to you all the time. against your will would just be on top of the girls in school. I'm sure that's still going on.
If I thought I
It's
had to deal with
just
that when I was in middle
ridiculous.
school, like my biggest worry was like if I was going to find some jeans that didn't make me look chubby. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, and then if I thought I had to deal with like trying to like live up to the expectations of, you know, the Kardashians and having a waist like this and a butt like, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I would probably be in a mental institution dealing with an eating disorder to this day. You know what I mean? Like, it was already hard enough. I couldn't imagine kids going through what they go through today.
Well, and we know with the rise of digital everything that mental health is something that is suffering, and we're getting more and more depression and more,
Yeah.
you know, anxiety and all of this stuff. And I like what you said about as adults, we can kind of cut those things. Like we can cut people off, we can cut things off, we can hide people and unfollow them if we don't like, just to protect ourselves and our mental state. Because I've done the same thing. But with ads, you really have no control over that. They're being shown to you whether you want to see them or not.
right.
And
We can
I really
Maria
didn't think about that.
Kondo, is that her name?
Yeah, with
Our
the
Facebook
closet
page.
cleaning
Does
out.
she
Yeah.
bring us joy? Does this person bring
Does
us
this bring
joy
me
on my
joy?
face? No, out, done,
Yes.
blocked, done. You know?
They also think there's a reason, you know, during the pandemic when we're all locked inside and we can't do anything else but just consume what's on our phone, that people's mental health started plummeting.
yeah.
because of that. And so then imagine being a teenager and doing that.
Yeah, not having the maturity and not having that.
Yeah.
And that's the addiction, and that's part of these lawsuits.
Yeah.
Because when something bad does happen, you go back, you feel safe, even though it's a false sense of reality. You feel safe in the phone. You're back into it, vicious cycle.
Yeah. One, it's an awkward stage. You don't feel like you can talk to your parents about things, and
No, you're
like
just
you just
Googling
bury
it.
yourself
And getting
further
more ads.
into it. Yes.
Doing things and getting more ads.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it normal to blah, blah, blah? And then all of a sudden you're targeted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm interested in this because I feel like, I mean, they all track, I mean, Google tracks us. So it's like when it goes to social media, I mean, is it going to then go into, you know, Google and
Google's
everybody
not
else?
off the hook either. YouTube's
You
part
know?
of this as well.
Yeah.
So.
So,
Because
Google's
they're all
on the hook
sharing
too.
data with each other, I feel like.
yeah, I mean,
Amazon.
nobody's safe.
It's it's all in their it's in their best interest to share it, right? So they can target you for the ads
Right.
and the content.
Slippery slope. I mean, I think it's smart to target. I actually like targeting because if I'm looking for a car or something, sure, show me all the cars. But it has to be monitored, kind of like these negative videos that are just being pushed out haphazardly need to be policed, you know? So, you know, how would even, I know you said that parents kind of be on the lookout for depression signals and signs and stuff like that. And, you know, I used to have a friend who is in the, I can't think of the actual like term, but she does therapy basically for younger children. She used to be like a counselor, and now she's just like a straight therapist. And she talks all the time about how just social media and, you know, rates for her have just skyrocketed with kids and how they're dealing with so much of these adult
Depression,
problems of
everything
depression
else,
and
yeah.
anxiety. So if someone is dealing with this and they think it may be due to social media, how does this work? Do they see you anyway, or do they have to kind of like do something bad for this to be a case?
No, if they're eating disorders, diagnosed anxiety, depression, anything that's getting medical treatment, because you have to have damages, okay?
Right. So something's got to be diagnosed. or
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
To, okay.
If they're seeking treatment for suicidal thoughts, attempted suicide, or the ultimate suicide, I mean, definitely we want to look at those and see if it's something we can help you with. Dig into your kids. I mean, you can get on the Apple and see what their screen time is. Just look at it, right? And take proactive action so we can just stop it. Don't worry about the lawsuit. I mean, take care of your child, right? That'd be step one. But yeah, if anything is popping up like this, I mean, it's a case we'd be willing to look at.
And the reason why we do these cases is not for the money part of it. It's not. It's 100% not. It's that, like, something's got to give, right? We know that they're doing this bad thing, and the only way to stop it is to hit him in the pocketbook. It's got to hurt. Change only comes to adversity, and adversity means it's got to hurt. My dad said that when I was a kid. I never understood it till not even when I became an adult did I really understand it. It took becoming an attorney. And so the only way to really incite change when you have these big corporations, because I can't go put Facebook in jail. They can put me in Facebook jail, but I can't do the other way around, you know? And so the only way to really incite change is to have these kind of lawsuits to demand better for kids.
Yeah. So do we have a like a time cap on this, or is it still kind of
This
evolving?
is early on. It's
Okay.
going to be a long, drawn-out process.
Okay.
I mean, they're not going to roll over and just take it. But I mean, if you look in the news, Meta's stock price tanking. It's because responsible advertisers, they're aware now. They're pulling ads off. There's less users on the app now because all this stuff is coming out now. So who knows where they end up? But it's not going anywhere. Social media is here to stay. Who knows how it's going to shake out? And the litigation is going to progress. We'll film an update when we got more news and got some more information from the discovery process. But as far as it is right now, just like we talked about, if this is affecting your family, just reach out to us and we'll see if it's something we can help you with. It's going to be a long process though. It's not something that's going to take a year or 2 years. We're talking maybe a 5-year plan here.
Right.
But step one, protect your child first.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, this is a great discussion just to kind of remind folks of the effects of social media and to really, watch your children and, be aware of what's going on and being involved in their social media if they have it, right?
So true.
Do you guys have anything else on this subject?
No.
So much, right?
I just want you to know that whoever made a Facebook page about you can suck it.
Yeah. If it's still up there, we're going to go harass them.
Facebook page.
We are.
It's been deleted.
I'm offended about that as well.
My heart hurts for you.
I know. We're gonna get the juice on this after we stop filming. I want to hear all about it.
Details.
Well, thank you guys for watching today. As always, let us know if you have any comments or questions. We would love to hear from you. We are on all of the social media, sadly. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can find us online at justiceislovely.com as well. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching the Carolina Justice Report. We'll see you next time.
When life gets ugly, justice is lovely. The